Hey, what's going on, guys? It's Michael from the Honest Youth Pastor YouTube channel, and I'm just pumped. I am so excited. I can't even stay in my seat. We're here again for another music review. Because why? Well, why? This is why. On this channel, we help believers use a biblical discernment in all aspects of life. And today, by no surprise, but mine, just solely mine, we're doing another Maverick City Music Elevation Worship song. Hey, real quick, before we do this, hey guys, come here. Yeah. Let someone else have a chance at the charts, please. Okay, so we just had a little talk. We're gonna get into this song real quick, called "Talking to Jesus." We're gonna be looking at the lyrics and saying, are these lyrics biblical, and could we sing this in corporate worship? Those are the two questions we're asking. Let's go. Let's go and push play. Hey guys, it's future Michael here. YouTube literally blocked the entire video, so I had to re-upload it. So you're gonna see some cuts in between here. There's not gonna be any music. It'll be cut in between the sections in which I stop and talk about the song. So sorry, YouTube's being stupid. But here we go. Okay, real quick. So the first chorus is great, right? It's about grandma praying. I thought she was crazy, but she wasn't crazy. She told me I should pray too. And I know she was right because she was talking to Jesus. And it was a great example. I mean, that's what we're starting off with right now is that, grandma was a great example of prayer and a reminder that I should pray too. That's basically what he's saying. So we're starting off as a great testimony song. I mean, obviously, I don't think everyone could sing this song because not everybody had a praying godly grandmother. But let's see. The second verse starts off with "Mama used to drag me to church." So let's see what happens there. So here we are. Godly grandmother praying, teaching you how to pray. Now you got a godly mother dragging you to church, even though you hated it, but you're grateful for it now because she taught you how to pray to Jesus as well. So you got this really godly lineage of grandmother, mother teaching you how to pray, praying in front of you, passing it on. This is actually a great testimony song, right? Of how good God has been to you, and you're telling others about it, right? So automatically, I think we can rule this out as a corporate worship song. The wording is not from us to God. The direction is really us to somebody else as a testimony of how good God is and how good he's been to us. So I think we can rule that out. But right now, the wording is great, right? It's my grandmother was godly, my mother's godly, and taught me how to pray. Both of them did, by example and by action. So great song so far. Let's keep going. All right, so he's about to break into the third verse chorus. I don't know what you call it. I'm not in my lane here, guys. I review sermons and now songs because I enjoy it as well. So we have a godly grandmother, we have a godly mother, and then there's sort of this corporate part of it, though I think it's still not going to sell me on singing this in corporate worship. I understand that there are some churches in different parts of the world, different ethnic backgrounds that this is a part of the service, a more of a testimony time that's sort of backed up by people singing in the choir with hymnals and things like that. So it's not out of the ordinary, but it's one of those things where this song, if you were going to use it in church, it would be like what we talked about in one of the last episodes we did, which would be like a special music, right? Like maybe somebody singing this with the choir behind them, but it's still a little awkward, right? Unless your grandma did pray for you and teach you, unless your mom did pray for you and teach you, it's a little bit of a weird song to sing in front of the church. But at its core, I think it fits in this pop music, pop Christian music category. You could definitely be singing this going down the highway in your car. If this is you and this is your testimony, you're just remembering how godly your grandmother was, how godly your mother was, how they both taught you how to pray. He's about to get into this next chorus, which I think is it just demonstrates this story continuing. So let's get to that. So I've said this before about Maverick City Music, apparently they did all of the songs. Two of them we've reviewed in this whole series we're doing. Apparently they did all of this at one setting because this is the same set, the same clothes everybody was wearing. And clearly everybody was prepared. They all know the words to these songs, but it does come off as sort of performative, right? Everybody knows what he's going to say. The music is designed in such a way for an upbeat, right? Like a climax in the song where it says, hey, no, come back. You picked the perfect time. And there's this emotional drive behind the music, which I don't think is necessary. You teaching, you telling other congregants, hey, my son came in last night. I taught him how to pray. Like my grandma taught me and my mom taught me. Like there's just this testimony part of it that's really strong and really rich and really good, but it comes off as performative in this sort of a setup. And I don't think in any way, I mean, maybe you guys could tell me. I don't watch, unless I have to do a sermon review, I'm not watching Elevation Church live stream. But have they sung this song in worship service before? Tell me down in the comment section below, because that'd be interesting, because it's not like a corporate worship song at all. The words are all about us, remembering how good God has been to us, but we're not singing to God. We're not really even singing to somebody else. We're just telling other people about what God has done and how he's been faithful. And then everybody sort of say, what a friend we have in Jesus. So sort of this, it's this remembering how good God is as a body together. It's just interesting. It's not really a corporate worship song, but at its core, it's good. Hopefully you guys have churches that you do like testimony times, like somebody can stand up and like say how good God has been to them, what they've seen, prayers, answered. We've had a couple of those. There's been a couple of services at my church where there wasn't even preaching. It was just like testimony after testimony after testimony after testimony. It was just incredibly encouraging. And I don't do that every Sunday, of course, but it was just a really encouraging time, because you just got to see what God was doing in other people's lives, which is, I think, really the core of this song, of remembering how good God has been to people. But that doesn't mean you make it into a worship song. Anyway, let's keep going. Real quick, I do want to interject here. I didn't think about this until I was really watching the video there. I think one of the things like that can be good and bad about videos like this is that, again, this is a really good, encouraging song about how good God is, what God has done, how great God is to be faithful, and, just generations after generations of people like worshiping him. But I think sometimes people can watch videos like this and be like, oh, I want to be there because my church doesn't do that. Instead of saying, how can I help my church get to a point that like they do testimonies a little bit more, or they do worship God in a visible way. Not that you have to worship God in a visible way, but there are churches that you go in that are just I call it dead people singing, where they're just like, what a friend we have in Jesus. And you're like, I don't know if you're really friends. You don't sound like it. There is this sort of this expectation that if you're worshiping, you're doing so with excitement, not necessarily like you see in this video. I mean, I'm not saying that has to look like that. I'm just saying that there is this understanding of who God is. I mean, you can tell the people that are worshiping in church, because they're singing loudly, they're singing clearly. Some people do put their hands up. Some people just have their eyes closed and they're singing it's different, but you can tell it's different than what a friend we have in Jesus, right? I mean, it's different than that. But one of the things that I think happens is people see pictures like this here, or what we saw, where people are just like, just swaying back and forth. They're thanking God for how faithful he's been. And they're like, oh, I want to go there. That's what I need. Instead of being content where you're at, saying, how can I be the catalyst here? And a lot of the times in your local churches, you know what that means? That means it's going to take a long time. That means you're going to have to be the first one to share a testimony. That means you're going to have to be the one that sings loud, because people need someone to lead them in that, to be the example of what that looks like. I mean, I'm not talking that your church has got to look like Elevation Church. Believe me, there's a lot of reasons why you shouldn't do that. But one of the things I think happens is that's why they don't go to church. They do church online, because I want to be in that church because look how alive they are. Instead of just saying, God, how can I be used in my local church? Anyway, I know it has nothing to do with the song, but it is something I saw there. So he's about to move on to this last section, and then we'll kind of dissect that a bit. There's no wrong way to do it. Sorry, that's Luke. There's no wrong way to do it. There's no bad time to start. It doesn't have to sound pretty. Just tell him what's on your heart, because it's not a religion. No, it's more like a friendship. So just talk to your father like you were his kid. So a couple of things there that are interesting. There's no wrong way to do it. There's no bad time to start. So just pray. Just start praying. It doesn't have to sound pretty. So it doesn't have to sound eloquent or great, or like it doesn't have to have eloquent wording to it. Just tell him what's in your heart. So all of that, I think is good. It's one of those things as far as how you're directing people. So this is really moved from a song about my grandma taught me to pray. My mom taught me to pray. I'm now teaching my kids to pray into a more of a corporate declaration of you guys should pray too, along the lines of no bad time to start, no wrong way to do it, doesn't have to sound pretty, just tell them what's in your heart. And then it moves into more of a how-to, and then it goes, because it's not a religion, no, it's more like a friendship, which seems to play on it's not a religion, it's a relationship sort of line that you hear a lot. And then it goes in and just talk to your father like you were his kid. There's a few things here that I think are really interesting in this regard. So one of the things I think we've lost in the last couple hundred years is a respect for God's holiness in regards to approaching him. So a lot of people say, well, we can boldly approach the throne of God, right, through Jesus Christ. And yes, but I think we've lost the sort of the lenses that they had in the early church in regards to God's holiness, his righteousness, the fact that he literally spoke everything into existence. So before, we have to understand the context of that line. Before Jesus, there were a whole bunch of different things you had to do before you entered the temple because of how holy God was and what the requirements had been. Now, Jesus, when he rises from the dead in defeat of Satan, sin, and death, the curtain tears, right? So now there's this symbolic, you can boldly approach the throne because of Jesus' resurrection and your adoption in his children into the family of God. But that doesn't eliminate God's holiness or his righteousness or the reverence that you should have when approaching him. So this language of, talk to him like he's your father and you're his kid isn't necessarily bad language as long as you understand a respectful father-son relationship. Or a father-child relationship. This idea that I respect my father. I have a healthy fear. I know we don't like to use that terminology, but we see that terminology in Scripture. Like, we fear God in the respect that we have a reverence for his holiness. Like, he could literally snap his fingers and everything could go away. Like, there should be a respect for that. And I think we've sort of, because of a variety of different things that have happened within the last couple hundred years of church history, especially in America, that there's not this reverence in approaching God. The other thing I want to talk about was so it's sort of built into the song there of, hey, you guys pray now, and then there's a whole bunch of spontaneous prayer. I don't necessarily have a huge problem with that. My church, when we pray, not one person doesn't lead out. It's everyone prays together, and it is, if you don't come from a denomination that does that, it is a little weird to hear. But honestly, it's pretty encouraging as well because you get to hear other people's prayers and then you can pray for their prayer as well after you're done praying yours. But one of the things that I think that with that we have, or we should have, is a reverence for who he is and an understanding that it is Christianity is a religion. And people don't like to say that. And I think the line that he's getting is more like a friendship is probably he's drawing from the when Jesus tells the disciples, you are my friends. I think that's probably where that reference is coming from. And it's not a bad reference, but you also have to remember, there is a reverence to this. You're talking to God here. And no, you don't have to go through all the ceremonial cleansing and all of that you had to at the temple, but it's the same God that you're approaching. And there should be reverence there and awe there. But I think oftentimes we approach him like the rambunctious kid and not like the holy God we just approach him like there's no reverence involved. It's just, we're here. Now, one last thing, we're not going to listen to the rest of the song because the lyrics are just pretty much repetition. It's what we have in front in Jesus a whole bunch. And then there's a part where it says, let it out, let it out, let it out. Which does kind of go into this whole just sort of spontaneous worship sort of moment for them. And then there's a line that gets added that's not in the rest of the song, that he's so close, he's so close. So it's almost like our worship is drawing him closer, and prayer is equal to like the spontaneous I don't know. You can't hear with the mics. I don't know if they're speaking in tongues or not. I know that's like a deal breaker for some people for sure. But that's there as well. So one of the things that you have to really pay attention to is that these lyrics, by and large, are good. Like I said, that last section is a little problematic depending on how you interpret it. But the rest of it's just a testimony song, telling other people about how good God has been to you. So it's not a corporate song. We wouldn't sing this in corporate worship. If Elevation has sung this in corporate worship, leave that in the comment section below. I'd be interested in watching that. I don't think they should have if they did. It's very much more fits in the category of like Christian pop music that you sing in your car and you remember how good God has been to you. So guys, if you want to watch more of those videos, check it out in the playlist below. We've done a handful so far of music reviews off of the most streamed on Amazon. So check those out, or check out the video. I don't know which side it'll be. There'll be some boxes there, the latest one as well as the playlist if you can't bother to get down in the description. But if you do, there's some affiliate links down there for some discounts on some products for you. Thank you for supporting the channel. If you've made it this far, before we go, could you do me like a favor? Hit that like button. I'll talk to you next week.